The John Candy joke that still makes Steve Martin cry. After producing anarchic and explicitly boundary-pushing comedy in the 70s, Hugh Early, the National Lampoon knew many of the era's biggest breakout stars established themselves as the definers of 1980s mainstream comedy films. They refined their style. Maybe the most underrated and low-key comedy icon of the 80s SCTV breakout star John Candy. Usually playing as a young copywriter in the advertising world, John Hughes had once been dispatched for a one-day business trip from Chicago to New York. It should have been simple. The story wasn't just a procession of mishaps, though. It was a touching portrait. Although surprised by the thickness of the script, comedies usually clock in at around 90 pages, Steve Martin jumped at the chance to play Neil. At that point in Planes, Trains, and Automobiles was, aptly, a giant road trip of a production, shooting in New York, Chicago, LA, and all over the Midwest from February to May, 1987. Also aptly, as for the funny stuff, there was an ample amount of driving scene where Candy gets his arms trapped and sets fire to the car. An open-air ride in November, after Hughes finished wrestling the movie down from 4.5 hours to a more commercial 92 minutes, a Planes, Trains, and Automobiles press conference was held on the Paramount back lot. With Candy and Al, once Candy arrived, the grilling began. Martin was quizzed. Candy, who had had multiple pieces of exercise equipment moved into his hotel suite during the shoot but never used them, embarrassedly admitted, "I do eat a lot of junk food, and I think about dieting for health reasons." Martin jumped in with, aside from the awkward lines of questioning at publicity events, Planes, Trains, and Automobiles was a moment of glory for Candy, certainly his finest hour since Splash. He was deluged with, excerpted with permission from Wild and Crazy Guys, How the Comedy Mavericks of the 80s Changed Hollywood, Forever, copyright 2019 by Nick D. Sem Lyon. Available May 20.
Raindrop, drop top, top smoking, no cooking the hot pot. Fucking on your bitch, yeah, that.